Lisa had everything a woman could ever dream of: a loving husband, a beautiful home, and a flourishing career. Each morning, she woke up to the warm embrace of her husband, Daniel, a tall, handsome young man who adored her endlessly. Their home, a spacious and tastefully furnished duplex in an upscale neighborhood, was the kind of place most people could only fantasize about. Professionally, Lisa was thriving. She worked at a top marketing firm, earning a salary that easily supported her luxurious lifestyle. She wore designer clothes, sprayed expensive perfumes, and drove a sleek black SUV that turned heads wherever she went. To many, Lisa was the definition of success. But despite her wealth, she remained humble, kind-hearted, and always ready to lend a helping hand, especially to her childhood friend, Cindy. Lisa and Cindy had grown up together in the same neighborhood, attended the same primary school, and even shared childhood dreams of making it big. But life had taken them in drastically different directions. While Lisa climbed the ladder of success, Cindy struggled. She had no stable job and still lived in a cramped, run-down apartment with her aging mother. She had never been married, and although she claimed not to be in a hurry, it was clear that she envied Lisa's seemingly perfect life. Despite the difference in their circumstances, Lisa never looked down on Cindy. She often sent her money, took her out to lunch, and even gifted her designer clothes, gently used, still stylish, and in perfect condition. Each time, Cindy would force a smile and say thank you, but deep down, a bitter jealousy burned in her heart. One Saturday afternoon, while clearing out her closet, Lisa came across a pile of expensive dresses she no longer wore. Some still had price tags on them. She smiled as a kind thought crossed her mind: Cindy would love these. Packing the clothes neatly into a large shopping bag, she drove over to Cindy's apartment that evening. When Cindy opened the door and saw Lisa standing there with the bag, she greeted her with a sweet smile. "Lisa, what brings you here?" Lisa handed over the bag with a cheerful grin. "I was clearing out my wardrobe and found some clothes I don't wear anymore. I thought you might like them." Cindy peered inside the bag. The smile stayed on her face, but her heart clenched with resentment. Here was Lisa, the woman who had everything: a wealthy husband, a stunning home, a high-paying job, now giving her charity. Old clothes. Leftovers. Still, she laughed lightly and said, "Wow, Lisa, you always remember me." "Thank you. I hope they fit," Lisa added. "If they don't, feel free to give them to someone else." That last sentence hit Cindy like a slap in the face. Give them to someone else? So Lisa thought so little of her that she considered her just a dumping ground for used clothes? As soon as Lisa left, Cindy stormed into her mother's room, seething with anger. Cindy's mother, Mama Rose, was a frail-looking woman in her 60s, but no one in the neighborhood took her lightly. People whispered about her behind closed doors, about her powers to make things happen, both good and bad. Cindy threw the bag of clothes on the bed. "Mama, look at what Lisa brought me," she hissed, eyes blazing. Mama Rose glanced at the bag without emotion. "And what is wrong with that? She gave me her old clothes." "Like I'm some beggar," Cindy snapped. "Just because she has money, a good husband, and a big house, she thinks she's better than me." Mama Rose's eyes darkened. "And you're just realizing this now?" Cindy bit her lip. The truth was, she had been feeling this way for a long time but had never dared to say it out loud. Mama Rose leaned in, voice low and dangerous. "Tell me, my daughter, are you still interested in her husband?" Cindy's heart pounded. Daniel. Of course, she still wanted him. She had always secretly wished he had chosen her instead of Lisa. "I won't lie, Mama," she whispered. "Daniel should have been mine." A sinister smile curled across Mama Rose's lips. "Then, my child, you shall have him." Cindy stared at her, unsure of what she meant. "What do you mean, Mama?" Without a word, Mama Rose picked up the bag of clothes, her fingers gliding over the fabric as she whispered strange incantations under her breath. These clothes carry Lisa's energy. Through them, I will ruin her life. Cindy watched, both terrified and fascinated, as her mother brought out bizarre-looking items from a small wooden box, a bowl filled with a dark liquid, red powder, and a rusted old needle. "What are you doing, Mama?" she whispered. Mama Rose's eyes gleamed. "By the time I'm done, Lisa will be unbearable to everyone around her. Her husband will leave her. Her friends will avoid her. She will stink so badly, people will run from her." Cindy's breath quickened. "And Daniel? He will be lonely," Mama Rose said wickedly. "And that, my child, is when you will strike." Cindy smiled. This was what she had wanted for so long, and now, it was finally happening. The next morning, Lisa woke up feeling a little off, but she shook it off and followed her usual routine, showering, dressing, and applying her favorite vanilla-scented perfume. But as she stepped out of the bedroom, something strange happened. Daniel, who was making coffee in the kitchen, suddenly recoiled. He turned to her with a grimace. "Lisa, did you forget to shower?" Lisa frowned, confused. "What? Of course not." Daniel stepped back, covering his nose. "Then why do you smell so bad?" Her heart skipped a beat. "I don't smell anything," she said, lifting her arm to sniff herself. "Nothing." But as she moved closer, Daniel coughed and waved her away. "Please," he said sharply, "whatever this is, take care of it." Then he grabbed his keys and left for work, leaving Lisa stunned and confused. Still shaken, she continued on to work, trying to ignore the morning's strange events. Dressed in a crisp white blouse tucked into navy blue slacks, she looked as elegant as ever. Her heels clicked confidently down the office hallway, her hair perfectly styled. But the moment she stepped into the elevator, she noticed people shifting away from her. At first, she assumed they were deep in conversation, but then she caught the subtle expressions, wrinkled noses, sidelong glances, quick retreats. At the front desk, Linda, the always cheerful receptionist, gave her a forced smile that quickly faded. Her nose crinkled, and she turned away too fast. Lisa's frown deepened. Something was wrong. Something very, very wrong. Lisa sat frozen in her car, her heart pounding in her chest. Cindy was rushing toward her, but it wasn't just the speed of her movement that sent a chill down Lisa's spine, it was the look on her face. It was a mix of shock, disgust, and fear. Lisa's mind raced. Why was Cindy so startled? Had she already known something about what was happening to Lisa? Was this all part of some cruel game? She clenched her jaw, struggling to hold back the tears. This wasn't just a bad streak of luck, it was deliberate. Someone had orchestrated this nightmare, and she was being manipulated. As Cindy reached her car, she hesitated for a moment, then opened the door. "Lisa, are you okay?" she asked, her voice tremulous, as if she was scared Lisa would lash out. Lisa took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She didn't trust herself to speak. She just nodded, trying to mask the turmoil inside. Cindy, her husband's so-called best friend, had been a constant presence in their lives. But now, Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that Cindy knew far more than she was letting on. "You should talk to Daniel," Cindy continued, voice strained. "Maybe he can help figure out what's going on with you." Lisa shook her head slightly. "I think I've already figured it out." The words were like a slap to her own face, a bitter realization of how much she had been ignoring. Without waiting for Cindy's response, Lisa slammed the car door shut and pulled out of the driveway. She could feel Cindy's gaze on her, but she didn't look back. As she drove, her thoughts spiraled. She needed answers, and she was going to get them, no matter what it took. There was no more pretending. Whoever was behind this, whether it was a medical condition, a sick joke, or something more sinister, she had to find out the truth. Arriving back at the house, Lisa didn't hesitate. She stormed inside, her footsteps heavy on the wooden floor. Daniel was no longer on the couch. The house felt cold, empty. She headed straight for their bedroom, where she found him sitting on the bed, staring at the floor. His face was a mixture of guilt and confusion. When he looked up at her, there was a visible struggle in his eyes. "Lisa," he started, his voice weak. "No," she snapped, cutting him off. "I don't want to hear any excuses. I need to know what's going on. Who did this to me? Why is everyone treating me like I'm some kind of disease?" Her voice cracked, but she refused to show weakness. "Tell me the truth, Daniel." His face paled. For a moment, Lisa thought he was going to break down, but instead, he stood up and took a step back, his body language more closed off than ever before. "I don't know how to explain this, Lisa. I wish I did. Then figure it out." Lisa screamed. "I've lost my job. I've lost everything. And I still don't understand why people are acting like I'm toxic." Daniel hesitated, his gaze avoiding hers. "There's something strange about you, Lisa. I can't explain it. It's like you're not the same person anymore. Maybe we need to get you checked out. You need help." His words hit her like a punch to the gut. Help. As if she were some sort of problem to be fixed. She could feel her anger rising, but before she could respond, something inside her shifted. The truth was clear now, like a cold, hard fact that she couldn't deny. This wasn't just a matter of misunderstanding or a coincidence. This was deliberate. Someone, or something, had intentionally caused this situation. Lisa's voice dropped to a whisper. "You don't understand, Daniel. This is bigger than us." Daniel's eyes widened. He reached for her, but Lisa stepped back. "I don't want your pity. I don't want your help. I want answers." With that, Lisa turned and walked out of the room, her determination building with every step. She knew she couldn't face this alone. Whoever had done this to her, whoever was behind the whispers, the stares, the isolation, would not get away with it. She would find them. And she would make them pay. Lisa stared down at her plate, the fried rice growing cold in her hands. Cindy's words were ringing in her ears, louder than the silent doubts creeping into her mind. Was Daniel seeing someone else? The thought made her stomach twist, and she struggled to push it away. "No," she told herself. "He wouldn't do that to me." But Cindy's voice, soft but insistent, echoed through her thoughts. "A real man doesn't run away when his wife needs him." Lisa set the plate down, suddenly losing her appetite. She hadn't even noticed Cindy's concerned gaze as she pushed the food away, her thoughts swirling. I don't want to believe it, Cindy," Lisa whispered, voice trembling. "But why would he leave like this? Why hasn't he even called?" Cindy's expression softened, her hand still gently resting on Lisa's. "Listen, Lisa, I know this is hard to hear, but sometimes the truth is harder to ignore than we want it to be." She paused, as if choosing her words carefully. "He may not be the person you think he is right now. People change, and they hide things. But you don't have to go through this alone." Lisa swallowed, the lump in her throat growing bigger. "But I don't know what to do. I don't even know what's wrong with me. If I could just fix it." Cindy cut her off, her voice warm and assuring. "You're already fixing it, Lisa. You're going to the doctor. You're trying to find the truth. But remember, just because something feels broken doesn't mean it can't be fixed. You can fix this, Lisa. And I'll be here every step of the way." Lisa's heart fluttered in her chest, the first real sense of relief she'd felt in weeks. For the first time, she felt like someone truly understood. But deep down, something else gnawed at her, an unease that made her skin prickle. Maybe you're right, Lisa murmured, though part of her still couldn't shake the feeling that things were spiraling out of control. She glanced up at Cindy, trying to read the emotions dancing in her eyes. I just don't know if I can do this on my own. You don't have to, Cindy replied gently, her smile more assured now. I'm not going anywhere. For a long moment, they sat there in silence, the weight of everything pressing down on Lisa's shoulders. The doorbell rang again, sharp and sudden, breaking the silence. Lisa's heart skipped a beat, and for a brief second, she wondered if it was Daniel. But when she opened the door, she was met with the cold gust of night air and a delivery man holding a small package. Her stomach sank. Who's that? Cindy asked, noticing the unease on Lisa's face as she signed for the package. Lisa shook her head, her thoughts still far away. I don't know. It's probably just something I ordered. But when she closed the door and opened the package, her heart plummeted into her stomach. Inside was a small, ornate box, one that she recognized all too well. It was something she and Daniel had bought together when they first moved in, a symbol of their commitment. A ring, elegant and simple, one they had both vowed never to take off. But now, the box was empty. Lisa? Cindy's voice cut through her fog of confusion. What is it? Lisa stared at the empty box, her hands trembling. It's from Daniel, she whispered, barely able to hold the words together. But why would he send it back? Why now? Cindy's expression hardened, a flicker of something dark crossing her face. Maybe he's done, Lisa. Maybe he's already moved on. And maybe he's just waiting for you to figure it out. The words struck Lisa like a blow, her breath catching in her throat. She shook her head, trying to force the thought out of her mind. No, he wouldn't. I won't let him. But Cindy's gaze was cold and distant now, as if she were seeing something Lisa couldn't. You don't have to fight alone, she said quietly, before adding, you're stronger than this, Lisa. We can make him see that. Lisa stood frozen in place, the empty box clutched in her hands. For the first time, the weight of everything seemed too much to bear. The lies, the silence, the feeling of being abandoned, was Cindy right? Was it over between her and Daniel? Cindy stood up, stepping closer to Lisa. Listen, she said softly, you're going to have to make a choice. Are you going to keep fighting for someone who isn't there for you, or are you going to take back control of your life? You can't keep chasing a love that's slipping away. I'll be here for you, Lisa. But you have to choose. Tears filled Lisa's eyes, but she blinked them away quickly. She felt her heart breaking, but there was something else too, something sharp and uncertain gnawing at her. Could Cindy really be the answer? Or was there something darker beneath her concern? The sound of her phone vibrating on the counter broke her reverie, and Lisa hesitated before checking it. It was a message from Daniel. I'm not coming back, Lisa. I've made my decision. Lisa felt her world crumble once again. But then Cindy's words echoed in her mind, pulling her back. Are you going to keep fighting for someone who isn't there for you? In that moment, Lisa made her choice. She would fight, just not for the man who had already turned his back on her. And as for Cindy, Lisa wasn't sure what to make of her anymore, but she knew she couldn't let this woman lead her into a place she wasn't ready to go. The trap was closing in, and it was time for Lisa to take back her life. She straightened her shoulders, wiped away the last of her tears, and walked to the door. It was time to face the truth. Cindy stood in the dimly lit hallway of her mother's small house, her heart racing. She had just left Lisa's place after planting more seeds of doubt in the woman's mind. It had been a calculated move, one she had been preparing for weeks. The fragile trust Lisa placed in her was a key component in her plan, and Cindy was determined not to let it unravel. But now, standing here, she couldn't shake the gnawing feeling that things were starting to spiral out of her control. Her mother, sitting in the same worn wooden chair she always sat in, watched her closely. The old woman had been through enough of life's trials to know when something was off. She raised an eyebrow, a silent question hanging in the air. "What's going on, Cindy?" her mother asked, her voice calm but with an underlying sharpness. Cindy could feel the weight of her mother's gaze, and for a brief moment, she wondered if she was being too obvious. Cindy let out a breath, trying to collect her thoughts. She had spent so long orchestrating everything, pulling strings, manipulating emotions, and now, it felt like she was on the verge of losing control. "I don't know, Ma," she said, her voice betraying her frustration. "It's all getting harder than I thought. Lisa's starting to get suspicious. Her mother's involved now, and I don't know. It's like she's not as vulnerable as I thought." Her mother's expression remained unchanged, but Cindy could see the faintest flicker of concern in her eyes. "You've been playing a dangerous game, Cindy," her mother said, her voice low and steady. "And the thing about games like these is that sometimes, the players forget the rules." Cindy scowled, pushing off the wall and pacing back and forth. "I'm not forgetting anything. I've got everything under control." She stopped abruptly, turning to face her mother. "But I need to be sure. I need to make sure she's completely broken before I make my next move." Her mother's gaze softened slightly, but there was no mistaking the caution in her words. "You know what happens when you push too hard. People crack when they're pushed too far, and they either fight back or disappear completely. Are you ready for either?" Cindy paused, her thoughts swirling. What if Lisa did fight back? What if everything she had worked for collapsed? No, she couldn't afford to think like that. She had worked too hard for too long to lose everything now. "I know what I'm doing," she said, her voice more forceful this time. Her mother stood up slowly, the wooden chair creaking beneath her. "You say that, but I see the cracks in your armor, Cindy. And Lisa, she's not as naive as you think. There's something more to her than you realize." Cindy's eyes narrowed. "You don't understand, Ma. Lisa's weak. She's falling apart. She's so desperate for answers, for someone to save her, that she doesn't even see the truth. She's blind to it." Her mother walked over to her, standing just a few feet away. "You might be right about Lisa. She might be weak, or she might be stronger than you give her credit for. But there's something about this situation that doesn't sit right with me. And you should be careful, because when the truth comes out, you might find yourself on the wrong side of it." Cindy's heart skipped a beat. Her mother's words were a warning, a stark reminder of the dangers of manipulation and deceit. But Cindy refused to be intimidated. She had come too far to back out now. "I'll take care of it," Cindy said firmly, her voice cold. "I just need more time. I need to make sure Lisa's completely dependent on me before I strike." Her mother studied her for a long moment, her sharp eyes never leaving Cindy's face. Then, without another word, she turned away, walking back to her chair and sitting down once more. "Do what you must," she said quietly. "But know that nothing lasts forever, Cindy. Not even power." Cindy felt a shiver run down her spine, but she didn't let it show. She had to stay focused, had to keep her emotions in check. If she let herself falter now, it would all be over. She couldn't let that happen. "I'm not going to lose," Cindy muttered under her breath, more to herself than anyone else. "Not to Lisa. Not to anyone." Her mother's gaze softened once more, though there was still a hint of concern in her eyes. "Just remember what I've said, Cindy. And be careful. Not all battles are won with strength." Cindy didn't respond. She was already lost in her thoughts, planning her next move. It was almost time to make Lisa feel completely and utterly alone. She needed to take the last step, push her into a corner where Lisa had no choice but to rely on her. Once that happened, Cindy could finally have everything she'd been working toward. But even as she thought about her victory, something nagged at the back of her mind. A small voice, almost imperceptible, whispering doubts. What if her mother was right? What if Lisa's strength wasn't as fragile as she believed? Cindy tried to shake the thought away. No, Lisa was weak, and Cindy was in control. Nothing would stop her now. Meanwhile, back at Lisa's house, the unsettling feeling that had been building inside her refused to fade. Her mother's words, though comforting, echoed in her mind. Be careful of Cindy. It was a warning Lisa couldn't ignore, not after everything that had happened. Cindy had been her rock, her closest friend, but what if her mother was right? What if Cindy was manipulating her all along? Lisa sat alone in the living room, her thoughts spinning out of control. She had always trusted Cindy, had always believed that her friend had her best interests at heart. But now, as the pieces of her life began to fall apart, she couldn't ignore the possibility that Cindy had a hand in it all. The more Lisa thought about it, the more the dots began to connect. Cindy's constant presence, her insistence that Lisa was weak and needed help, it all started to seem too convenient. But how could she confront Cindy? Lisa wasn't sure where to begin. She wasn't even sure she could trust her own instincts anymore. She needed answers, and she needed them fast. The first step would be to talk to her mother again, to get a clearer perspective on what was really going on. But beyond that, Lisa knew she would have to face Cindy head-on, find out the truth, and make sure she wasn't being led down a path that would destroy her. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. This wasn't just about her marriage anymore. It was about her life, her future, and the truth that was hiding in plain sight. Lisa stood up, her decision made. She would no longer allow herself to be a pawn in Cindy's game. She would fight back, and she would find out exactly what Cindy was hiding. No more running away, no more being manipulated. It was time to take control of her own destiny. As Lisa walked to the door, a sudden chill ran through her. She had no idea what the next few days would bring, but she knew one thing for sure: it was time to expose the lies and uncover the truth, no matter the cost. It was a quiet evening when Mama Lisa felt the weight of the situation settle heavily on her chest. The phone call she had just received from Cindy was the last thing she had expected. With a shaky voice, Cindy had confessed that her mother suspected something wasn't right. Lisa's heart dropped, but before she could even speak, Cindy's own voice cracked. She knows something's wrong, Cindy had said. She's praying now, and I can tell she knows. Her mother's response was sharp and stern. Foolish girl, I told you to remain calm. Now you're making it obvious. Lisa could feel her breath quicken as Cindy continued. I didn't say anything, Cindy quickly interjected. I left because I felt uneasy. Her mother's eyes narrowed, a sharpness in her voice that made Lisa flinch. Then why are you panicking? Her mother's words echoed in her mind, sending a chill down her spine. Cindy leaned back in her chair, her hands trembling. Because Lisa called me, she confessed. She asked why I left so suddenly. Her mother's calm voice turned to something firmer, more commanding. And what did you tell her? The answer was a lie, and Lisa could feel the unease from Cindy in the air. I told her I had an emergency call, that I'd be back tomorrow, Cindy muttered. Lisa's heart sank further as she listened to her mother's words, which were a forced, calm reassurance. Good. Stick to that story. Still, Cindy couldn't shake the unease in her chest. It wasn't just her mother's cold words or her own guilt that weighed on her. There was something else, an ominous sensation that she was teetering on the edge of something she couldn't control. Yet, when her mother told her, relax, they will never find out. Do you hear me? Cindy swallowed her doubts, nodded, and let the weight of the words fall over her. But deep inside, she couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't over, not by a long shot. The following day brought more than Cindy could ever anticipate. Lisa was preparing to leave with her mother when the doorbell rang. She opened it, and there, standing on her doorstep, was Daniel, the man who had once been her husband. He was the same person who had abandoned her without a word, without a single phone call or message. And now, after all this time, he stood there looking at her with something she couldn't quite read in his eyes. A mixture of regret, perhaps? Lisa's heart raced as she froze, unsure how to react. Daniel cleared his throat awkwardly. "Lisa," he began softly. "I came to talk." Before Lisa could respond, her mother stepped forward, arms crossed and eyes narrowed. "After all this time," she said coldly, her voice unwavering. Daniel swallowed nervously but didn't back down. "Please, just hear me out." Lisa hesitated for a moment, then sighed. "Mama, I'll talk to him. Just give me a moment." Though her mother wasn't happy, she stepped back, her posture stiff with disapproval but willing to give them space. Lisa crossed her arms, standing firm in the doorway, and looked at Daniel. "What do you want?" Daniel ran a hand through his hair, visibly nervous. "Lisa, I've been thinking about everything, the way I left, how I didn't try to understand what you were going through." His voice faltered as he spoke. "I was wrong." Lisa's throat tightened, the emotions flooding back, a wave of anger mixed with hurt. "You left me when I needed you the most," she said, her voice tight. But Daniel wasn't finished. "Lisa, something strange has been happening," Daniel hesitated before continuing. "After I left, Cindy started visiting me a lot. She kept saying things about you, about how I made the right decision." Lisa's eyes widened as her mind raced. "Cindy?" she asked in disbelief. Daniel nodded, his face racked with confusion. "At first, she was just a friend. But then, she started acting differently, always coming over, cooking for me, and making me talk badly about you." Lisa's world seemed to tilt as the pieces began to fall into place. Daniel paused, then rubbed his face. "Then one night, she said something strange. She told me it was good that I left you, that you weren't meant to have a happy marriage anyway." Lisa staggered back, her mind spinning. It was all starting to make sense. Cindy had been manipulating Daniel, pushing him away from her. But why? The realization hit her like a slap in the face. Cindy had been pretending to be her friend, all the while working in the shadows to destroy her marriage. "Daniel," Lisa whispered, her voice trembling, "do you think Cindy had something to do with this?" Daniel looked at her, his expression serious. "Yes. I think she was involved." Lisa's legs felt weak beneath her, and she grabbed Daniel's arm for support. Without another word, Daniel, Lisa, and her mother set off for Cindy's house. The drive was silent, heavy with anticipation. The door swung open to reveal Cindy and her mother, standing there in a quiet tension. They were whispering to each other, but the moment they saw the group, Cindy jumped up, her face startled. "Lisa, what are you doing here?" Cindy's voice was tight, defensive. Lisa's mother wasted no time, pointing at Cindy's mother with an accusing glare. "Tell us the truth. What did you do to my daughter?" Cindy's mother's face twisted with confusion, but her voice was sharp. "I don't know what you're talking about." Daniel stepped forward, his anger simmering beneath the surface. "Cindy, you were trying to take my wife's place, weren't you?" Cindy's hands shook as she stumbled backward. "That's not true. Stop lying." Lisa's voice rose, sharp and full of pain. "You made me believe you cared. You were hurting me all along." Her words hit like a thunderclap. Cindy's mother reached for her daughter's hand, pulling her away from the confrontation. "We don't have to explain anything to them," she said firmly. Lisa's mother, however, was not backing down. Then we'll make sure the world knows what you've done. Her eyes were fierce, filled with a determination that made Cindy and her mother pause. Enough. Cindy's mother snapped, disappearing into her bedroom. A few tense moments passed before she reappeared, carrying a small wrapped bundle. She handed it to Lisa's mother, speaking in a hushed tone. Burn this, and your daughter will be free. Lisa stared at the bundle, confusion clouding her mind. But as her mother followed the instructions, something shifted in the air. The very next morning, Lisa noticed a change. For the first time in weeks, people didn't avoid her. No one looked at her with pity or judgment. When she walked into the kitchen, Daniel was there, making coffee, and he didn't flinch when he saw her. It was as if the darkness had lifted. The weight that had been pressing on Lisa's chest for so long was finally gone. Daniel pulled her into a warm hug. It's over, Lisa, he whispered. You're free. Tears filled Lisa's eyes as she sobbed in his arms, feeling a sense of relief she hadn't known in months. She had almost lost everything, but in the end, the truth had prevailed. Cindy and her mother didn't give up easily. They tried to pretend as if nothing had happened, but life had a way of balancing the scales. The very next week, Cindy's life began to unravel. She lost the small shop she had been managing. The owner suddenly decided to sell to someone else. Her mother, once proud and independent, fell ill and couldn't afford proper treatment. As the days turned into weeks, Cindy's life spiraled downward. No job, no respect, no friends, and the disgust in the eyes of everyone she passed made it clear, they knew what she had tried to do. She was alone, consumed by her own envy. Meanwhile, Lisa's life flourished. Her marriage to Daniel grew stronger, though it took time. Slowly, love began to find its way back. Lisa was promoted at work, and they moved into a bigger house, surrounded by happiness and peace. One evening, while at a supermarket, Lisa heard a voice call her name. She turned and froze. Cindy was standing there, looking worse than Lisa had ever seen her. Her skin was dry, her clothes old and worn, and the sparkle that had once been in her eyes was gone. Cindy swallowed hard and said in a low voice, "Please, I need to talk to you." Lisa took a deep breath, then nodded. "Go ahead." "I'm sorry," Cindy's voice trembled. "Please forgive me. I regret everything I did. It wasn't my intention. My mother pushed me. Please, Lisa." Lisa looked at her for a long moment, then crossed her arms. "Cindy, you had a choice. You could have been a true friend, but you let jealousy destroy everything." Her voice softened, and her expression grew somber. "I forgive you, but I can never be your friend again." Cindy's eyes lit up with hope, but Lisa's next words extinguished that light. "Some things can't be undone. I've moved on with my life, and I want nothing to do with you anymore." Cindy's face fell, and she nodded slowly, tears brimming in her eyes. "I understand." Lisa glanced back at her one last time, her heart heavy but resolute. "Take care, Cindy." And with that, Lisa turned and walked away, leaving Cindy standing alone, consumed by nothing but regret. From that moment on, Lisa made a decision. She would no longer give away her used clothes, and she would always pray without ceasing. Her mother agreed, and the lessons were clear. Kindness must have boundaries. It wasn't about being careless with your love and support, it was about knowing when to protect yourself from those who would only harm you. For Cindy, her story was one of loss, of friendship turned betrayal, of envy destroying her future. Lisa, on the other hand, learned that sometimes, the people we help are the ones who would plot our downfall. But in the end, she emerged stronger, wiser, and free. Her story teaches us something crucial: not everyone deserves your kindness. Some people wear the mask of friendship, but deep down, they may be filled with envy and bitterness. Always pray for wisdom and protection. When you give, make sure it is received with good intentions. For not every hand that takes from you wishes you well. In the end, Lisa's victory was one of peace, a peace she had fought for and earned.